The morning shift began like any other aboard Station Harmony. Commander Sarah Mitchell walked through the bustling corridors, watching humans work alongside their alien allies. The Zephyrians floated past with their glowing blue skin, while the rock-like Korthek moved slowly but surely toward their workstations. Everyone had a job to do in this corner of the galaxy. Sarah stopped at the observation deck and looked out at Earth's newest colony ship preparing to launch. The massive vessel would carry 50,000 humans to a distant star system. It was humanity's 15th colony in just 200 years since joining the Galactic Confederation. Impressive, isn't it? Asked Zexhai, a Zephyrian diplomat who had become Sarah's friend over the years. His mental voice echoed softly in her mind. Very, Sarah replied. Hard to believe we've come so far since first contact. That first contact had been awkward. Humans were newcomers to galactic society, crude and primitive compared to species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. But humans learned fast. They adapted. They found solutions that other species never considered. The Korthek said humans thought in straight lines while others thought in circles. The Vraxans respected human stubbornness in battle. Even the ancient keepers, who rarely spoke to anyone, had taken notice of humanity's strange approach to problems. Sarah's communication device buzzed. "Commander, we're getting strange readings from the colony ship," reported Lieutenant Jackson from the control room. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures we've never seen before. The whole ship is glowing." Sarah rushed to the control room with Zexhai following close behind. The screens showed the colony ship surrounded by a soft, white light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Other human ships throughout the solar system were showing the same phenomenon. "Are they in danger?" Sarah asked. "Unknown, Commander. They're not responding to our calls, but all life signs show normal." The white light grew brighter. Sarah watched in amazement as the colony ship began to fade, becoming transparent like a ghost. Within minutes, it was completely gone. Not destroyed, not exploded, simply gone. "Contact other human settlements," Sarah ordered. "Find out if this is happening everywhere." The reports came in quickly, and every human settlement, every ship, every station was experiencing the same thing. The white light appeared, grew brighter, and then they vanished. No explosion, no debris, no distress signals. They simply stopped existing. Station Harmony was the last human outpost still functioning. Sarah watched the readings as the strange energy built up around them, too. The alien crew members looked confused and frightened. "What's happening to us?" asked Dr. Reeves, the station's head scientist. "I don't know," Sarah admitted. Through the viewing ports, she could see the white light beginning to form around their station. Zexhai placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Perhaps this is not an ending but a beginning," he said softly. The light grew brighter and brighter until Sarah could barely see. She felt a strange sensation, as if she was being pulled in every direction at once. The last thing she heard was the sound of her own heartbeat growing louder and louder until it filled the entire universe. Then, silence. The Galactic Confederation search fleets arrived within hours. They found empty space where thriving human colonies had existed just that morning. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no trace that humans had ever been there at all. Admiral Krextor of the Vraxan fleet led the largest search operation in galactic history. For months, they scanned every system humans had ever visited. They checked other dimensions, parallel realities, even time itself. Nothing. "It's like they were erased from existence," reported his science officer. "An entire species doesn't just disappear," Krextor growled. "Keep searching." But as the months turned to years, hope faded. The Confederation declared humanity extinct, cause unknown. Earth was sealed as a memorial world, and human space was gradually settled by other species. The Korthek took over human mining operations, praising human engineering even as they improved upon it. The Zephyrians established meditation centers in former human cities, saying the locations held interesting mental echoes. The Vraxans converted human military bases, noting that human defensive strategies had been surprisingly effective. At first, other species spoke of humans often. They remembered human jokes, human food, human music. Children of various species played games pretending to be the extinct innovators who found strange solutions to impossible problems. But memory fades. 10 years passed, then 50, then 100. New species joined the Confederation. New technologies were developed. New challenges arose and were overcome. By the time 2 centuries had passed, humanity was mostly forgotten. Earth became just another world in the vast catalog of Confederation planets. In school, young aliens might learn that a species called humans once existed, but they were just another footnote in galactic history. Only the oldest members of the longest-lived species still remembered humans clearly. The Keepers, ancient beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, would sometimes mention the ones who thought sideways in their rare communications. They showed promise, an old keeper would occasionally say. Perhaps they found a different path, but most dismissed such comments as the wandering thoughts of minds too old to remember clearly. Humans were gone and the galaxy had moved on without them. 300 years passed. The Galactic Confederation grew larger and stronger. New threats arose and were defeated. Life continued across 1,000 worlds, and humanity became nothing. More than a legend whispered in the deepest archives of galactic history. The Grand Assembly Hall on Confederation Prime buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 1,200 species filled the massive chamber, their various forms creating a spectacular display of galactic diversity. Some floated, some walked, some simply existed as pure energy contained in special suits. Chancellor Morthek of the Korthek Council called the emergency session to order. Her crystalline body rang like a bell as she struck the ceremonial gong. Fellow beings, we face a threat unlike any in our recorded history. The main display showed images that made even the bravest warriors uncomfortable. Entire star systems, simply gone, replaced by empty voids that hurt to look at. Not destroyed by war or natural disaster, consumed by something that defied understanding. The entities we call void devourers have consumed 47 systems in the past year. Morthek continued. Our greatest minds cannot explain what they are or how to stop them. Admiral Krextor, now ancient but still fierce, stood to address the assembly. His scarred Vraxan features showed the weight of countless battles. Our fleets are useless against these things. Energy weapons pass right through them. Physical attacks accomplish nothing. They exist partially in our reality and partially somewhere else. Dr. Yilseth, a brilliant Zephyrian scientist, projected her thoughts to the entire assembly. We have discovered that the entities manipulate space-time itself. They don't destroy matter. They remove it from existence entirely. Our current technology cannot even detect them until they begin feeding. The assembled representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Galactic Confederation had never faced an enemy they couldn't understand, negotiate with, or defeat through superior technology and unity. What do our computers suggest? Asked Speaker Vaz, whose species was entirely mechanical. All conventional. Strategies fail, replied the central AI. The entities operate on principles that contradict our understanding of reality. We need solutions that think outside normal parameters. An old voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Keeper Silthara, one of the ancient ones who rarely attended such meetings, had materialized in the shadows. The lost innovators would have found an answer. The assembly fell silent. Most species present had never heard humans mentioned in serious discussion. The who? Asked a young representative. Silthara's form shimmered as she moved forward. Humans. They vanished 3 centuries ago. Their approaches to problems were unusual. While we think in established patterns, they thought in directions that seemed impossible. Chancellor Morthek consulted her records. I find minimal data on this extinct species. They controlled only 12 systems before their disappearance. Size is not importance, Silthara replied. Humans solved the Vraxan shield crisis through a method no other species considered. They ended the Korthek economic collapse with strategies that violated established trade principles. They consistently found answers where others found only problems. Admiral Krextor nodded slowly. I remember them. Fought alongside human ships during the Outer Rim War. Their tactics made no sense, but they worked. Lost more battles than they won, but somehow always achieved their objectives. Dr. Yilseth's mental voice carried interest. Do any records of their problem-solving methods exist? Fragments only, Silthara admitted. Most human knowledge vanished with them, but I recall they often spoke of thinking outside the box, approaching problems from angles others never considered. The assembly erupted in discussion. Some species dismissed the idea of learning from an extinct civilization. Others demanded immediate searches of human ruins for any surviving technology or information. We are desperate enough to try anything, declared Chancellor Morthek. But even if human methods were superior, how do we apply extinct knowledge to current problems? The central AI processed the question. Analysis of remaining human data suggests they excelled at adaptive thinking. They did not rely on established solutions but created new ones for each unique situation. However, without living humans to guide the process, recreating their methods proves difficult. As the debate continued, urgent alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. The main display showed another star system under attack. The Devourers had reached the mid-core only 50 light-years from major population centers. Estimated time until they reach Confederation Prime? Asked Chancellor Morthek. At current consumption rates 6 months, the AI replied. The assembly fell into grim silence. 6 months to find a solution to a problem that had already defeated their greatest minds and most powerful weapons. Admiral Krextor stood again. I propose we dedicate all available resources to searching for any remaining human technology or information. If this extinct species truly possessed unique problem-solving abilities, we must find what they left behind. Seconded, called Dr. Yilseth. Even fragments of human knowledge might provide the breakthrough we need. The vote was unanimous. Within hours, exploration fleets departed for every system humans had ever visited. Archaeological teams prepared to excavate every human ruin. Computer specialists began analyzing every piece of data humans had ever transmitted, but as the weeks passed, the search yielded little. Human settlements had been thoroughly scavenged centuries ago. Their computer systems were primitive by current standards. Their written records spoke of creativity and determination, but provided no specific solutions to current problems. The Void Devourers continued their advance. 3 more systems vanished while the search continued. Panic began spreading through Confederation space as civilians fled toward the Outer Rim. We're running out of time, Admiral Krextor reported during an emergency meeting. The evacuation of core worlds has begun, but most of our people will never reach safety. Chancellor Morthek's crystalline form had begun showing stress fractures. Have we learned anything useful from the human archives? Only that they possessed remarkable optimism in hopeless situations, Dr. Yilseth replied. Their records show they often succeeded when failure seemed certain. But understanding their mindset and replicating their methods are different things. Keeper Silthara remained silent in her corner, but her ancient mind was working. Something about the current crisis felt familiar, though she couldn't identify why. The Void Devourers seemed like more than random destroyers. They moved with purpose, as if following some greater plan. Perhaps, she finally said, the humans didn't abandon us. Perhaps they found something we haven't discovered yet. The warning came from the Deep Space Monitoring Station at the galaxy's edge. Sensor operator Vexlan, a young Zephyrian on his first assignment, stared at his screens in confusion. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy readings from the empty sector, he reported to his supervisor. Captain Dorhan looked over his shoulder. The empty sector? Nothing exists out there except cosmic dust. Check your equipment. Equipment shows green across all systems. The energy signature is definitely there. And it's familiar somehow. Dorhan frowned. The empty sector had been thoroughly explored centuries ago. No stars, no planets, no resources of any kind. It was dead space, avoided by traders and explorers alike. Show me the readings. The main display filled with energy patterns that made Dorhan's eyes widen. The signatures were massive, far beyond anything produced by known technology. But there was something else, a mathematical precision in the patterns that seemed almost artistic. "Send this data to Confederation Command immediately," Dorhan ordered, "and prepare a probe for deep scan." Within hours, the readings had reached the highest levels of Confederation leadership. The Emergency Council reconvened as scientists struggled to understand what they were seeing. The energy output equals approximately 50 star cores operating at maximum capacity, Dr. Yilseth reported. But the patterns are unlike anything in our database. Admiral Krextor studied the displays. Could this be connected to the void? Devourers? Unknown. The energy signatures are completely different. These readings suggest construction or assembly of some kind, not destruction. Chancellor Morthek made the decision quickly. "Dispatch a scout fleet, full stealth approach. If something this powerful exists in our galaxy, we must know what it is." The scout fleet consisted of the Confederation's most advanced ships, equipped with every sensor and defense system available. Admiral Krextor led the mission personally, his old warrior instincts telling him this discovery would change everything. 3 days of careful approach brought them to the edge of the empty sector. What they found defied belief. A structure floated in the void, but calling it a structure was like calling a star a campfire. It stretched across hundreds of kilometers, its surface seeming to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Parts of it appeared to exist in normal space, while other sections seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. "By the ancient codes," whispered Commander Zalthor, Krextor's second in command. "What are we looking at?" "Unknown," Krextor replied, but something about the design pattern seemed familiar. Clean lines, efficient engineering, purpose-driven construction. "Begin deep scans. Maximum range, minimum power. I don't want to provoke whatever built this." The scans revealed even more impossible details. The structure existed partially in dimensions beyond normal three-dimensional space. Its materials included substances that shouldn't exist according to current physics. And deep within its core, life signs registered, but in patterns that the computers couldn't identify. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported the communications officer. "From where?" "The structure. It's in standard galactic, but with linguistic patterns we haven't seen in centuries." The main screen activated, showing a figure that made every being on the bridge freeze in shock. Tall, bipedal, with pale skin and brown hair, the being looked exactly like the extinct humans from historical records. But there was something different about her eyes. They held depths that seemed to see beyond normal reality. "Greetings, Confederation Fleet," the figure said calmly. "I am Navigator Chen of the Human Collective. We have been expecting you." Admiral Krextor found his voice first. "Expecting us? Humans have been extinct for 3 centuries. Navigator Chen smiled, an expression that was both familiar and somehow alien. "Extinction is a matter of perspective, Admiral. We have been elsewhere, learning, growing, preparing for this moment." "Preparing for what?" "The return of the Void Devourers. We encountered them during our journeys beyond the Veil. They are not random destroyers, Admiral. They serve a purpose, and that purpose threatens all life in this reality." Dr. Yilseth's mental voice cut through the communication channel. "How do you know about the Devourers? How are you still alive? Where have you been?" Navigator Chen's eyes seemed to focus on each questioner simultaneously, as if she could perceive multiple dimensions at once. 3 centuries ago, humanity discovered that our reality was just one layer of existence. We found doorways to spaces beyond normal, physics beyond time itself. We chose to step through. "Chose to abandon your allies," Admiral Krextor said harshly. "Chose to become something greater," Chen replied without offense. "We knew the Devourers would return eventually. We have spent 3 centuries learning to fight enemies that exist beyond normal space and time." The structure around them pulsed, with energy that made space itself ripple. Through the viewports they could see other human figures moving through sections of the vessel that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "You're saying humans have been preparing for this war for 3 centuries?" Commander Zalthor asked. We have been preparing to save the galaxy, Chen corrected. The Void Devourers are servants of something far worse, beings of pure entropy, that view complex life as a contamination to be cleansed. They cannot be fought with conventional weapons or tactics. Admiral Krextor's military mind was already working. What do you need from us? Permission to dock with your flagship. There are things you must see to understand. The war that is coming cannot be won by any single species, no matter how advanced. But together, we might find a way to not just survive, but transcend the threat entirely. Dr. Yilseth projected her thoughts cautiously. How do we know you're really human? How do we know this isn't some trap? Navigator Chen's smile became sad. Because, Dr. Yilseth, you can still sense my thoughts, just as your mentor Dr. Kethovo taught you to do with humans 3 centuries ago. And because Admiral Krextor still carries the scar from the Battle of Keth Prime, where Commander Sarah Mitchell saved his life by throwing herself between him and a plasma blast. Krextor's hand moved instinctively to his chest, where an old battle scar still ached in cold weather. Few beings alive remembered that battle, and only Sarah Mitchell had witnessed that specific moment. You're really human, he said quietly. We are human, Chen replied. But we are also more than we once were. And if you are willing to trust us one more time, we can show you how to become more than you are as well. The docking process defied every law of physics Admiral Krextor knew. The human vessel didn't just connect to his flagship, it somehow merged with it, creating a seamless transition between technologies separated by 3 centuries of development. Navigator, Chen met them at the airlock, and up close the changes in humanity became even more apparent. She moved with perfect grace, as if gravity was merely a suggestion. Her eyes held knowledge of things beyond normal understanding, and when she spoke, her words seemed to echo from multiple directions at once. Welcome aboard the Transcendence, she said, leading them into corridors that bent in ways that hurt to look at directly. I apologize for the disorientation. Our ship exists in several dimensions simultaneously. Dr. Yilseth struggled to maintain her mental balance. The ship's interior created psychic echoes that suggested impossible geometries. How is this possible? When humanity stepped beyond the veil 3 centuries ago, we discovered that reality has layers, Chen explained. What you perceive as the universe is actually just one thin slice of existence. We learned to navigate the deeper layers. They entered a vast chamber that somehow felt both enclosed and infinite. Other humans worked at stations that appeared to be made of crystallized light. Admiral Krextor noticed that some humans looked exactly as they had centuries ago, while others had been changed in subtle but profound ways. Time flows differently between dimensions, Chen said, noticing his observation. Some of us have experienced centuries, others mere months, but all of us have learned to see beyond the boundaries that once limited us. She gestured to a massive display that showed the galaxy from an impossible perspective, not just stars and planets, but the deeper structures that connected everything. Dark threads wove between systems like a web of shadow. The Void Devourers travel along these deeper pathways, Chen explained. They exist primarily in what we call the null layer, a dimension of pure entropy that underlies all reality. From there they can strike at any point in normal space without warning. Commander Zalthor studied the display. If you can see these pathways, why can't you simply intercept them? Because the beings that control the Devourers exist even deeper than the null layer. They are the Entropy Lords, ancient entities that view the complexity of life as a disorder to be corrected. They have been asleep for millions of years, but something has awakened them. Dr. Yilseth's mental voice carried growing horror. What could wake such beings? Chen's expression became grim. Us. All of us. The Galactic Confederation has grown too large, too complex, too alive. From the perspective of the Entropy Lords, our galaxy has become a cancer that must be removed. A new voice joined the conversation. But we have learned to think as they think. Another human approached, an elderly man whose eyes held the weight of impossible experiences. Admiral Krextor recognized him despite the centuries that had passed. Commander Mitchell? He asked in shock. Dr. Mitchell now, the man replied with a familiar smile. Sarah's father, She didn't make it back from the first expedition beyond the veil, but her discoveries saved us all. The pain in Krextor's chest was sharp and sudden. Sarah Mitchell had been a friend, one of the few humans he had genuinely respected. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said quietly. "She's not lost," Dr. Mitchell replied. "Death is just another boundary to cross. Sarah exists now in the deep layers, helping to guide humanity's path. She asked me to tell you that your debt is paid. This is her way of saving your life, one final time." Navigator Chen called their attention back to the display. "The immediate threat is manageable. We can handle the current wave of void devourers, but more will come, and eventually the entropy lords themselves will act directly. When that happens, no being that exists purely in normal space will survive." "What are you proposing?" Admiral Krextor asked, though he suspected he already knew. "Evolution," Chen replied simply. "We can teach willing species to perceive and exist in deeper dimensions. It's not easy, and not everyone can make the transition, but those who do will be able to fight on the same level as the entropy lords." Dr. Yilseth's mental voice was carefully controlled. "What happens to those who can't make the transition?" "They remain in normal space, protected by those who have transcended, but they must accept that they will be dependents rather than equals in the new reality." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Humanity was offering to save the galaxy, but at the cost of fundamentally changing what it meant to exist. "How many of your people have made this transition?" Commander Zalthor asked. "All of them," Dr. Mitchell replied. "It was that or extinction. The first wave of void devourers 3 centuries ago was meant to eliminate us specifically. Somehow, the entropy lords identified humans as a threat before we even knew they existed." "A threat to what?" Navigator Chen activated another display, showing complex mathematical formulas that seemed to write themselves in the air. "We think differently than other species. While you adapt to reality, we instinctively try to change reality to suit our needs. The entropy lords recognized this as a fundamental threat to their vision of ordered emptiness. So they tried to eliminate you first," Krextor concluded. "Yes, but instead of destroying us, they forced us to evolve beyond their reach. And now we can teach that evolution to others." Dr. Yilseth projected her thoughts carefully. "What would this evolution require?" "Trust," Chen replied. "Complete trust. We must guide your consciousness beyond the boundaries of normal space-time. Some minds cannot handle the transition and are permanently damaged. Others adapt but can never return to purely physical existence. The weight of the decision was enormous. Accept humanity's offer and gain the power to fight impossible enemies, but lose forever the simple existence they had always known. Refuse, and face certain destruction when the entropy lords move directly against the galaxy." "How long do we have to decide?" Admiral Krextor asked. Chen consulted readings that appeared to exist in the air itself. "The next wave of void devourers will arrive in 14 days. If we're going to save the core worlds, volunteers for evolution must begin the process immediately." "And if no one volunteers?" Her smile was sad, but determined. "Then humanity will make the same choice we made 3 centuries ago. We'll step beyond the veil again, find a reality where life can flourish, and leave this dimension to the entropy lords." Admiral Krextor looked at his companions, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their expressions. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors but as teachers offering a gift that came with an impossible price: evolution or extinction, and the clock was already ticking. The Galactic Assembly had never seen anything like the debate that raged for 3 straight days. Representatives shouted across species lines, translations failing as emotions overwhelmed diplomatic protocols. At the center of it all, Navigator Chen waited patiently, answering questions with calm certainty. "You're asking us to abandon everything we are," declared General Vorthak of the Vraxan Empire. "Our ancestors built this civilization through strength and honor. We will not hide behind transcended humans like frightened children." "With respect, General," Chen replied, "strength and honor are admirable, but they cannot affect beings that exist outside your reality. You might as well threaten a hurricane with your sword." Chancellor Morthek's crystalline form showed stress fractures as she tried to maintain order. The Korthek Collective demands proof of these claims. Show us these entropy lords. Demonstrate this transcendence you speak of. Chen nodded to Dr. Mitchell, who activated a device that seemed to be made of folded space. The air in the assembly hall shimmered, and suddenly everyone could see beyond normal reality. The universe revealed its hidden layers. Dark pathways connected every star, pulsing with malevolent energy. And moving along those pathways, vast shadows approached from the galactic rim, the next wave of void devourers, larger and more numerous than before. But more terrifying were the shapes that moved in the deepest layer of reality. Ancient beyond measure, the entropy lords stretched across light years, their forms suggesting intelligence focused on a single purpose: the elimination of complexity from existence. They sleep still, Chen explained as the vision faded. But not for much longer. Each act of creation, each new life, each moment of joy or discovery in this galaxy brings them closer to full awakening. The assembly fell silent. Even the most skeptical representatives could not deny what they had seen. Dr. Yilseth was the first to speak. The Zephyrian Collective volunteers for the evolution process. Our mental abilities may make the transition easier. As do the Korthek, Chancellor Morthek announced, surprising many. We have always prized mathematical precision. These deeper dimensions appear to follow mathematical laws we wish to understand. One by one, most species declared their willingness to attempt transcendence, but the Vraxan Empire held firm. We choose to fight as we are, General Vorthak declared. If this is to be our final battle, we will face it with weapons in our hands and honor in our hearts. Navigator Chen's expression was sad but respectful. Your choice is honored, General, but know that your sacrifice will not be forgotten. The transcendence process began immediately aboard the human vessel. Volunteers from each species were brought into chambers that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The process was different for each individual, but always profound. Dr. Yilseth felt her consciousness expand beyond her physical form. Suddenly she could perceive thoughts and emotions across vast distances, see the mathematical structures that underpinned reality itself. The transformation was beautiful and terrifying. Commander Zalthor experienced transcendence as a shattering of limitations he hadn't known existed. His mechanical form became fluid, able to interface directly with technology across dimensional boundaries. He could feel every ship in the Confederation fleet as extensions of his own body. Not everyone survived the process. Some minds couldn't handle the expanded awareness and simply stopped functioning. Others emerged changed but broken, forever caught between dimensions they couldn't fully perceive or abandon. Chancellor Morthek's crystalline structure became something beyond mere matter, a living equation that could reshape reality through pure mathematical will. She wept for those who couldn't make the transition, but felt hope for the first time since the crisis began. As the volunteers underwent transcendence, the void devourers arrived at the galaxy's edge. General Vorthek led the Vraxan fleet in a desperate holding action, buying time for the evolution process to complete. The battle was magnificent and heartbreaking. Vraxan warriors fought with courage that inspired songs, their ships charging impossible enemies with weapons blazing. They couldn't hurt the void devourers, but they could slow them down, force them to waste energy breaking through purely physical defenses. Ship after ship vanished into nothingness, but the Vraxans never wavered. General Vorthak's final transmission was simple. For the future, for those who will transcend. When the evolved beings finally joined the battle, everything changed. Navigator Chen led them into spaces between dimensions, where the void devourers could be engaged on equal terms. Dr. Yilseth turned her expanded mental abilities against the creature's primitive consciousness, confusing and redirecting them. Chancellor Morthek used mathematical precision to unweave the reality distortions the devourers created. But the real breakthrough came when they reached the entropy lords themselves. The ancient beings stirred from their eons-long sleep, preparing to personally cleanse the galaxy of complexity. Now you see the truth, The largest entropy lord spoke directly into their minds. Life is chaos. Order must be restored. Order without complexity is emptiness, Navigator Chen replied. Her consciousness expanded to match the ancient being's scope. We offer a different path, complexity that serves order, life that creates rather than destroys. The battle that followed was fought with ideas rather than weapons. Humans and their evolved allies demonstrated possibilities the entropy lords had never considered. Cooperation across species lines, growth that strengthened rather than weakened universal structures, complexity that created new forms of order rather than destroying existing ones. Slowly, incredibly, the entropy lords began to understand. Life didn't have to be chaos. Complexity could serve purposes greater than mere existence. Show us, the ancient beings finally said. What followed was the greatest construction project in galactic history. Humans and their transcended allies worked with the reformed entropy lords to create something unprecedented. A galaxy where life could flourish across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Earth became the center of this new reality, existing in 7 dimensions at once and serving as a meeting place for beings of various levels of transcendence. The old Galactic Confederation was replaced by something greater, a multi-dimensional community where consciousness itself had become the primary form of existence. Those who couldn't or wouldn't transcend were given their own protected spaces within the new structure. The Vraxan remnants were honored as guardians of the physical realm, their sacrifice remembered in monuments that existed across all dimensions. Navigator Chen stood in the observation deck of New Earth, watching as construction ships built impossible structures that spanned multiple realities. Dr. Mitchell joined her, his consciousness now spread across several dimensional layers simultaneously. Sarah would be proud, he said softly. She knows, Chen replied. Her work in the deep layers made all of this possible. Humanity found its purpose, not to conquer or rule, but to bridge the gap between what is and what could be. In the deepest reaches of space, human explorers continued their journey into realities yet unknown. The galaxy was safe, but the universe held infinite mysteries. And when the next cosmic threat emerged, as it inevitably would, humanity would be ready. They had learned the most important lesson of all. True power came not from strength or technology, but from the willingness to grow beyond what you once were. 10 years had passed since the Great Transcendence, and the galaxy had become something that would have been impossible to imagine before humanity's return. Cities floated in space that existed in multiple dimensions, allowing beings of different evolutionary stages to live and work together. Trade routes now connected not just star systems but entire parallel realities. Navigator Chen walked through the halls of the Interdimensional Council building on New Earth. The structure defied simple description. Parts of it existed in normal space, while other sections phased through layers of reality that only transcended beings could perceive. It was a perfect symbol of what the galaxy had become. Today marked a special occasion. For the first time since the transformation, representatives from purely physical species would meet with beings who existed across multiple dimensions. The meeting would discuss the next phase of galactic evolution. Are you nervous? Asked Dr. Mitchell, his form shimmering between dimensions as he appeared beside her. Curious, Chen replied. The physical realm species have developed their own solutions to dimensional existence. I'm interested to see how they've adapted. The main council chamber filled with beings that represented the full spectrum of existence in the new galaxy. Chancellor Morthek had become something like a living mathematical equation, her consciousness able to reshape reality through pure logic. Dr. Yilseth existed as a distributed intelligence that could manifest anywhere thoughts existed. Commander Zalthor had evolved into a hybrid of mind and machine that could interface with technology across multiple realities. But representing the physical realm were beings who had chosen different paths. General Kethvar, son of the fallen, General Vorthak, led the Vraxan Guardians. His people had developed incredible physical technologies that allowed them to interact with dimensional boundaries without actually crossing them. The physical realms report complete stability, General Kethvar announced, Our new defensive systems can detect and repel dimensional intrusions. The younger species feel secure enough to begin their own exploration of cosmic mysteries. This was remarkable progress. Species that had once cowered before the void devourers were now confidently reaching toward the stars, knowing they were protected by both transcended guardians and their own advanced defenses. The entropy lords report equally positive developments, added a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The reformed ancient beings had become partners in galactic development, their vast knowledge helping to maintain balance between order and complexity. Navigator Chen addressed the assembly. Humanity's deep space explorers have made contact with other galactic clusters. Some face threats similar to what we overcame. Others have developed entirely different solutions to cosmic challenges. The implications were staggering. The techniques developed during Earth's crisis could be shared with other galaxies, spreading the new form of existence across the universe itself. There's something else, Chen continued. Our explorations have revealed that consciousness itself may be evolving on a universal scale. What happened here might be part of a larger transformation occurring throughout all reality. Dr. Yilseth's distributed thoughts touched everyone's mind simultaneously. You're suggesting that the emergence of transcendent life is not unique to our galaxy? Exactly. We've detected similar energy signatures from distant galaxy clusters. The universe itself may be becoming conscious, and we're among the first to participate in that awakening. The assembly absorbed this information in contemplative silence. The scale of what they were discussing went beyond anything previously imagined. Young voices from the back of the chamber broke the silence. A group of beings from species that had emerged after the transcendence, born into a reality where multiple dimensions were normal, stepped forward. With respect to the council, said Zara, a young human whose consciousness naturally existed in 5 dimensions, our generation doesn't see this as unusual. For us, transcendence is simply how reality works. We'd like permission to explore, beyond even the current boundaries. Her companions nodded agreement. These young beings had never known the limitations that had once defined existence. To them, traveling between dimensions was as natural as walking between rooms. Navigator Chen smiled. This was exactly what humanity had hoped for, a generation that would go beyond even their achievements. What kind of exploration are you proposing? We want to explore the spaces between universes, Zara replied confidently. If consciousness is evolving on a universal scale, there must be connections between different realities that we haven't discovered yet. The older beings exchanged glances across multiple dimensions. The young were proposing to venture into realms that even transcended humans found challenging. The risks would be enormous, warned Dr. Mitchell. We barely understand the physics of our own expanded reality. But the opportunities could be unlimited, countered Marcus, another young explorer whose mechanical enhancements allowed him to process data from 17 different dimensional layers simultaneously. Every great discovery in galactic history came from someone willing to go where others said it was impossible to go. General Kethvar spoke from his position as guardian of the physical realm. The Vraxan Honor Code supports such explorations. Those who dare greatly achieve greatly. But they must not do so alone. Chancellor Morthek's mathematical consciousness computed probabilities across multiple variables. The risks can be minimized through proper preparation and support systems. If volunteers are willing and adequately protected, such exploration could benefit all reality. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The galaxy, that had learned to transcend dimensional boundaries, would not be stopped by the boundaries between universes. Plans were made for the most ambitious exploration in galactic history. Teams of volunteers from all evolutionary stages would be equipped with the most advanced technology available, both physical and transcendental. They would venture into the spaces between universes, seeking other realities where consciousness might be evolving. As the council session ended, Navigator Chen found herself on the observation deck once again, looking out at stars that now seemed like neighboring houses rather than distant lights. Earth hung in space nearby, its multiple dimensional layers creating aurora-like displays that painted the void in impossible colors. Dr. Mitchell joined her, as he often did during quiet moments. "Do you think Sarah would approve of how far we've come?" he asked. Chen smiled, feeling the presence of minds that existed in the deep layers of reality, including the consciousness that had once been Sarah Mitchell. "I think she'd be proud that we never stopped pushing boundaries," Chen replied. "And I think she'd be excited about what comes next." In the distance, the first expedition ships were being prepared for their journey beyond the universe itself. They would carry the hopes and dreams of countless species, along with the lessons learned from humanity's greatest adventure. The galaxy had been saved, the universe was awakening, and somewhere in the vast reaches of existence, new challenges waited that would require everything the cosmos had learned about growth, cooperation, and the endless potential of consciousness to transcend any limitation. Humanity had found its true purpose, not to rule or conquer, but to explore, to connect, and to help existence itself grow beyond what anyone had dared to imagine possible. The adventure was just beginning,